Hi and welcome to Isle of Wight Bushcraft, and the first in this series of videos dealing with knife skills, so stay tuned. Well, you join me in a first of this series of videos dealing with knife skills. And of course, first of all, we need to take a look at the knife itself. Now, there are lots of different knives out there, and you could spend hours and hours talking about all of them if you was trying to cover everything. But we're predominantly obviously talking about bushcraft knife, or a knife that's best suited for bushcraft. And of course, knives, they vary in expense. You can start with something that's really quite affordable and work your way up to a knife that's going to last you a lifetime. And everybody, of course, will have their favourite. My advice would be is get the best that you can afford and something that feels comfortable in your hand. And I'll definitely go for a blade that has a Scandi grind. It makes sharpening a lot easier, and we'll be covering sharpening in the next video. So let's go and take a look at some of the knives that we may choose and use in bushcraft. Now, as I said a moment ago, we're not going to deal with every single knife that there is out there. I'd be here forever and a day, but these are just some of the knives that kind of work their way up through the scale. You can see you can start off with something that's relatively affordable. I think I paid about £27 for that one. And then of course you progress up the scale a little bit. This is a Jack Pyke, and it's okay. The knife or the steel's not that strong though, as I'll show you in a moment. And then we go a little bit further up. I think I paid nearly £70 for that one, and that's a Helle of Norway. Lovely knife, but not the most resilient. It's not a bad knife though. And then these, of course, these Pukkos, which are actually got these in Lapland. Lovely knives, high carbon steel. And then at the top of the scale, of course, is my favourite. I love this knife. This is a Jacklore. I'll pay around about 280, 320 pounds for one of these. So you can see the range. Let's have a closer look at the knives themselves now. So we'll take a look at this Whitby to begin with. Now, if you're just starting out, of course, this is not a bad knife actually. It comes with a leather sheath and with its integral belt loop as well. So it's a nice knife, and as you can see, quite a nice looking knife. The blade is stainless steel, so it's not going to corrode, which is good, particularly, like I say, just starting out, learning how to look after a knife. Now you'll see that it's a full tang knife, and has a little choil there as well. We'll go through the knife parts in a moment, which is good for grip, and pretty strong pommel end. And as I say, the fact that it's stainless means it won't corrode. You will find that with a stainless steel knife, doesn't hold an edge as well as high carbon steel. But again, like I say, it's a nice knife to if you're just starting out. Okay, let's just take a look at this this Jack Pyke now. Now you'll notice that there's a piece of the blade missing there. I'll explain why in a moment. Again, a good knife if you're just starting out and you don't want to spend too much on a knife. And you find that this the grind's different on this. It's kind of got a micro bevel on the edge. But and it's taken some abuse, this knife. But I think I've given it maybe just a little bit too much, because the blade actually broke. So it's obviously a little brittle, this this steel. So if you're looking for something that's going to last many years, this is maybe not the best knife to have. And yeah, so this may be not your first choice. Now, as we progress up through, you can see. Have a look at this one next. This is the Helle Egan from Norway. A nice knife. Now, the Helle Egan is a lovely knife for bushcraft. It's again, it's reasonably affordable. You'll pay around about £70 for one of these. It's they use the still on this. They use what's called a three-way. Well, it's a three-ply laminate basically. You've got two sheets or two layers of stainless steel, and sandwiched in between them is a layer of high carbon steel. The thinking behind that is that the knife is resistant to corrosion because obviously the outside layers are stainless steel, and then that inner core, being high carbon steel, will retain an edge for a fairly long time. And this is a good knife. The only thing that I would say against this is you'll see on the choil there, that part of the knife there that I was batoning with this recently, and that part of the choil, because this is a birch, it broke off. So I've damaged this knife. You can see there where I was batoning, and it just caught the edge of the choil there. Choil being this little cut-out area on the handle of the knife, and it broke off. But again, it's so I wouldn't recommend this for batoning, but it's a good knife. Certainly a good all-round knife. Full tang, and yeah, a good blade, good all-round blade that. And it comes with they come with their leather sheath as well. So that's a nice bushcraft knife, but just be aware that batoning with this is probably inadvisable. Notice also I've got a couple of Pukkos here. These are lovely knives, really nice knives, and I highly recommend these actually. So let's take a closer look at one of these. Now, for a really quite affordable bushcraft knife, I'd recommend these. And again, if you're sort of don't want to spend too much money, you can get these. These are around about £70, £60, £70. They come with their own leather sheath. This is in the kind of a lappy style sheath, which in leather, which I love. Come with their kind of belt loop, which is an integral part of the sheath. The knife itself, a lovely sized knife that, particularly for youngsters as well. Lovely Scandi grind on this, so that's much easier to sharpen, and a high carbon steel. So for throwing sparks from a ferrocerium rod, it's going to be fantastic. You probably could even use the spine of the knife for generating a spark from a flint if you really had to, although I wouldn't recommend doing that. You've got this little brass, like a brass bolster really there, which is protects the knife if you're batoning. So you can baton with these. The only thing that you wouldn't do with these, which I wouldn't recommend, is the pommel end, because this is finished in reindeer antler. You obviously wouldn't use that for crushing or breaking things, seeds and so forth up. You'd damage the pommel end of the knife. But other than that, a great knife, and very tactile, and very traditional looking as well. A very appealing knife. These Pukkos are lovely. I think they make a great bushcraft knife, so that's something you might consider. And then lastly, and best of all, my favourite knife, and probably always will be, is this Jacklore Classic. So let's take a look at that. And you see it comes in a lovely thick leather, this sheath. Very resilient sheath. And if I take the knife out, you'll see that it's got these lovely stabilised curly birch scales and mosaic pins. on that lovely Scandi grind blade. And I always keep this sharpened to a razor. But we'll deal with sharpening in the next video, and maintenance. And this is my my personal bushcraft knife, and a knife like this is going to be a fair amount of outlay, but this is something that's going to last you for many years, providing you look after it, of course. Full tang, and this is high carbon O2 steel, I think it is, blade, 6mm tang, full tang, and this lovely Scandi grind. As I say, at the moment that's razor sharp. Now the only thing with high carbon steel blades is you will need to maintain them. You'll need to keep them clean, particularly where you're using it on wood. The tannins of the wood will stain the steel. Also, even oils and grease from your own fingers can stain them. So you need to look after these. They do need a bit of maintenance, but they will hold an edge for a long time. And a bushcraft knife like this, this is, as I said a moment ago, this is a Jacklore. It's something that's very versatile, robust, and will last many years. So those are the various knives that you might consider if you're just starting out in bushcraft. Let's just quickly have a look at the various parts of the knife. So we'll just take a closer look at the knife and the various parts. You'd be surprised actually how many different parts of a knife there are. Now we look at the blade in its entirety, which goes all the way to the end of the handle there. So the blade in its entirety, that's what's known as the tang, and this is a full tang, as you can see. It goes right the way through the knife. You can see the liners there in between the scales. Now this part of the handle here are referred to as the scales of the knife, and then you'll see we have these pins which help to keep the scales attached to the tang. And these are mosaic pins, and there at the end you have the lanyard hole. You can see the little leather lanyard that I've got attached. And this end is the pommel. You can see it's a nice rounded pommel for if we want to just crush something up. There you'll see the edge of the blade, and that's a Scandi grind, or the grind of the blade, a Scandi grind. This part of the blade we refer to as the belly, which is always the most difficult part to sharpen, and then the point. This is why a good strong O2 steel blade is important, because if we're drilling with that point we need it to be good strong steel. Back of the blade there referred to as the spine. Again, that needs to be, if that's a nice sharp spine, we can use that for processing fat wood and throwing sparks from our ferricium rod. And we just see the little in cut there, which was referred to as the choil. That just helps our hand from slipping forward onto the blade when we're cutting or splicing, carving, whatever. Now some knives that you may have, you'll see almost like a false edge coming down here, or a swage as it's called. I'm not particularly keen on those because they're not good for throwing sparks, but this one is doesn't have that. And again, I mentioned a moment ago about the Scandi grind, so this makes sharpening much easier. Some edges will have a bevel, and then it will have a micro bevel on the very edge, so that makes sharpening can be a little bit hit and miss. Any bushcrafter will tell you that Scandi grind is the grind that you want to go through when purchasing or acquiring a knife. Well, there we are. That's just a brief overview of just some of the knives out there that you can use for bushcraft. Everyone will have their favourite, and obviously I can't cover every single knife. But I find this Jacklore classic, also Woodlore as well, Raymir's, the Woodlore knife, very much the same. I think this is based on that knife actually. They're very good bushcraft knives. And of course the knife that we use in bushcraft is a trusted companion, something that we'll utilise a lot in our bushcraft. Well, there we are. In the next video we'll be looking at sharpening and maintaining our knives. Now if this is your first time visiting Isle of Wight Bushcraft, then why not subscribe and then click on the notification bell down below, and then you'll be able to access lots of other content, and you'll also be notified as well of upcoming videos, particularly in this series. And if you're just starting out in bushcraft and you're considering hammock camping, again I highly recommend that, then have a look at this video here, all about how to rig your hammock and hang your hammock for hammock camping. Very helpful video. I'll put the link down below in the description box. If you just click on that little grey arrow that points downwards, that will then drop the menu for the description box, and I'll put the link in there so you can view that video. Well, that's all for now folks. I'll see you next time.